Welcome to the UPside Podcast, where we help you get unstuck in life by elevating your thinking and provoking meaningful change from the inside out. I'm your host, Teresa Fled, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me today. Welcome to episode 1. So today, to kick us off on this first podcast, number one, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I want to talk just a little bit about personal growth because I think it's such a buzzword these days. We hear about personal growth. If you're tuning into this podcast, it's probably because I'm preaching to the choir, if you will, and you're somebody who cares and wants to go on a personal growth journey. But really, what does that mean? And I'd love to share with you just a few thoughts about what it means to be on an intentional growth journey in our lives. And I have 4 things that I believe if we will implement those and get really intentional and purposeful, it's going to help us go from point A to point B faster and more intentionally. So one of my favorite illustrations, and if you know me, you know I talk about this all the time, and I will give credit to Smokey Garrett, who I heard this illustration from the very first time, but I have taken it and I've taught it over and over again, and it's the staircase illustration. And if you imagine a staircase right in front of you, right, where the stairs are going up from the floor to the next level, and you put an A at the bottom of the stairs and you put a B at the top, where in our lives and our businesses, we're looking always to go from point A to point B. We're going from where we're at to where we want to be. We set goals and we look at our current state and we see the vision for the future of where we're desiring to get. And unfortunately, it's not an escalator. If you know Rory Vaden, he has a book called Take the Stairs, which is a beautiful illustration that it is no escalator. You have to actually take the stairs one burning, painful step at a time. You have to go on a journey. But I think what we sometimes miss when we're setting the goal is that really it's not about going from A to B or from where we're at to where we want to be. It's actually going from who we are to who we have to become. And what I've found sometimes is we'll actually get to the end destination and it really wasn't even about the goal. It was about the journey and who we got to become along the way. And that is really the beautiful thing about any goal that we set in our lives is that we get to go on a journey of becoming the person who accomplishes that. And the question really is who are you becoming in the climb? And I have found in my life, when I focus on who I'm becoming, it makes the pain worth it. It makes the burn of the climb, if you will, worth it. And Stephen Covey, who's an author that I love, he wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a classic book, probably on many of your bookshelves. And he talks about how all public victories, meaning external success that we see, is always preceded by internal victories. Meaning we win it first internally before we ever win it externally in front of the world. All success happens inside to outside, and I do fundamentally believe that. John Maxwell says, you will never change your life until you change something that you do daily. Why? Because it is that small, tiny steps, one step at a time, consistency over and over again of becoming the person that you were destined to be. So I want to give you 4 things, and these are all action items that you could implement starting today. And number 1, I believe you already do, because if you're listening to this podcast, you are already doing number 1, which is consume content consistently. And you've heard the phrase, you are what you eat, meaning everything that you put inside your mind and inside your brain is what feeds you. And so the more that you can consume the kind of content that is going to encourage you, that's going to challenge you, that's going to cause you to think bigger, it's going to maybe even challenge some beliefs that you have that might be holding you back. But the more that you can constantly consume content, the better off you're going to be. But the key is to not just consume it, it's to really engage with it. It's to apply it. It's not learning for learning's sake. It's learning for doing's sake. So I would encourage you right now, you can subscribe to this podcast and make this part of your weekly content consumption. But the more that you can read, listen, and all of that to the things that in the areas that you want to grow and develop, the better and the faster that you are going to grow. And then the second one is to teach what you learn. And one of the things that has helped me the most facilitate growth in my life is to teach what I learn. And for some of you, you may love to teach, you may love to speak in front of people, and so that may resonate with you. You do that already. For some of you, you would rather die instead of standing up in front of a room and teaching. But this doesn't have to be in a public way. It can just be about taking what you're learning, internalizing it, and then presenting it back out. Start with teaching to your dog, teach your cat, teach your children, share things at the dinner table that you're learning, teach others the things that you're consuming, because it's going to cause you to internalize it at a greater level. And the other thing that it does is when you're a person of integrity, it is really hard to teach it and to not do it. And so it helps to hold you accountable to actually growing in that area when you start teaching it to others. One of the things that I have heard many times in my Keller Williams Market Center is agents will say, I'm really glad I'm teaching the database class because when I teach it, it reminds me of everything that I know I need to do. And I actually start implementing the things that I've known for a long time that maybe I forgot and got a little complacent in. So number one, consume a lot of content. Number two, teach it. And just get out of your head about that. Just start teaching it. And number three, this one's maybe a little harder, and that one is to embrace change. No personal growth happens without change. Think about the very nature of growth. A little child cannot grow without changing. That's the actual definition of growth, is something changes and becomes different. And if you're a little bit like me, change makes me a little bit uncomfortable, doesn't always resonate, and it's going to push you past your comfort zone. And what I know is that if we're not changing and we're not getting uncomfortable, we're probably not growing. We're probably not doing anything that's actually challenging us to be different or to show up differently or to push past fear. And so if you're going to be a person that's committed to intentional growth in your life, just join me and let's just get used to getting uncomfortable with change, because it is challenging, but it is so worth it. And there is powerful things that will happen on the other side of that. So number one, consume content. Number two, teach it. Number three, embrace change. And then number four is spend time thinking. So this one, in our fast-paced world, I think it's overlooked a lot. And we often spend our, quote, downtime listening to podcasts or to music or feeling just that dead air, if you will, or quiet space. And I do believe that it is really, really important that we slow down, that we get quiet sometimes, and we get still and we think. Because when we think, it causes us to dig a little bit deeper, and it causes us to ask questions. And I do not know who this quote is from. I believe it's a John Maxwell quote, but so I'm just going to give him credit. But the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. And one of the activities that I do anytime that I'm feeling stuck in life or feeling like I'm not growing or I need to get to that next level, or I have a challenge in my business that I'm not sure how to break through, or I'm feeling discouraged, is I stop and I write a list of questions. And they're big questions. And sometimes they're questions I don't know the answer to right out of the gate. Things like, if I wasn't afraid of anything, what would I do? Things that will challenge me a little bit. And actually in the show notes, I'm going to put a list of questions that you can download and spend some time thinking about. So number one, I want you to consume a lot of content. Be consistent about it. It doesn't have to be for a long time every day, but consume content. Number two, teach it. Number three, embrace change. And number four, spend time thinking. Ask yourself questions and really dig deep. So as we wrap up today, I just want to leave you with this. Personal growth is not a destination. It's about becoming the very best version of yourself that you can be. And it's one step at a time, one day at a time. And it's about enjoying the journey. So if today inspired you, would you please share this podcast episode with somebody who might want to go with you on that growth journey? And remember, invest in your growth every single day. It will yield you amazing returns in your business and in your life. Until next time, I'm Teresa Flood, and this is the Upside Podcast.